Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Parenting in the Trenches, where we're talking tonight about socialization and attachment. I'm Dr. Tanya Farron, owner of Creative Living Ideas, alongside here with my partner for this event that we meet once a month, Dr. Qureshi.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So happy to be here on another Tuesday, June 24th, for Parenting in the Trenches. Dr. Tanya, I can't believe we're on month 6, which means we are halfway through the series and the year.
Right? It's
It,
crazy.
time
And
passes by so quickly.
I was watching the intro go in and I was like, child development that we're talking about, building a parenting village, all of those things that we are working on with this event has been really, really fun to do. And I feel like, if you are just joining us, go back and rewatch some of the old videos already from this year.
Mhm.
We are just continuing on through that child development and building that parenting village. So it's just been super fun. I have loved it.
Yeah, and I am so grateful to have you part of my virtual LinkedIn community. It's been such a pleasure to work alongside with you as an educator, as a healer, as a mom, as a friend, colleague, as an innovator. I mean, the list can go on and on, right?
Oh,
But
thank you.
I'm very, very grateful to have been able to link to you. And with that, I don't know if you recognize or seen, like it just gets better and better every month, right?
Yes.
I mean, of course, it's about our experience, right? Like I'm out there. Like I was only doing one event last year with my dear friend Damien, just one, once a month, okay? And now I'm doing 2 this year, and we've had special episodes around mental health month. So
Yes.
this month and last month we did an additional parenting mental health, right,
Yes.
for maternal and paternal caregivers, etc. So like I'm just extremely excited. I can't wait to see what 2026 holds because I have tons of great projects in the line, and you also kicked off your parent to parent
I
as
did. I
well.
did. And we actually
The
meet this Thursday. This Thursday, we meet parent to parent, doing a book study on my book, Raising the Well-Adjusted Child, a Parent's Manual. So it's a book club for parents, and we just get together and talk about this, and it's super fun. So yeah, the parent to parent whole project evolved this year. So the book has been out for a couple of years, but really relaunched that, as well as starting the YouTube channel for parent to parent with parent advice, parent tips, the TikTok channel for YouTube, the TikTok channel for parent to parent. So just every social media area that I could get into to really help parents and talk to them. So I've loved that. And you are just a little firecracker. I mean, we're getting to the 4th of July. So firecracker for me, always excited and ready to talk about the next topic, and your energy is just incredible. You've been such a fun partner, and we've been able to bring amazing people on the show, and we have a special guest today again too for socialization and
Yay!
attachment. I know you want to introduce our guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. We're talking about socialization, attachment, and we want to welcome Dr. Rachel
Hello.
Altvader. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Like
You
she
are.
has such a okay, hi. And what I
Hey.
was gonna say is you have such a dynamic, like superhero name, Alt Vader.
Oh, yeah. It's like Darth Vader. So, fun fact, Alt Vader is old father, Darth Vader is dark father. And I give my husband credit for that last name because it's not my maiden name, but I will take ownership of it because it's mine now.
I love that. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, I'm also thinking about when we first met, right?
Yeah.
Which we can talk a little bit about that. But did you bring your flashcards that you created?
Oh, yes. I had little Pokemon
Little
cards that were made.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I like to be a little extra.
Okay.
Keep
Yes.
things a little extra fun.
at some yeah. So for our audience and Dr. Tanya, Dr. Rachel and I met at a collaborative event for art therapy. So we both are sites for art therapy interns through a university,
Nice.
right?
Nice.
So they wanted private practice owners and entrepreneurs to come out and really talk to some of the graduates or incoming, students around what does art therapy look like in the world in private practice specifically. So I met Dr. Rachel there and we hit it off. And then I stalked her on LinkedIn. I was like, you got to come do an event. You got to come do an event because you're in child. You specialize in child and play. And she has this awesome agency as well, which I would love for her to talk about. But interestingly, it starts with creative.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So I'm the owner of Creative.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm the owner of Creative Psychological Health Services. It's a group private practice in Maryland. We have 3 locations around Maryland, and we also offer virtual services. We specialize in child and adolescent mental health, and then play, art, drama, and other expressive-based therapies. So I can definitely get into that momentarily. But I'll also just share a little bit more. I'm a licensed psychologist. I'm a registered play therapist supervisor. I specialize in trauma work, in digital mental health. I serve on advisory boards. I love to sprinkle myself everywhere, just like the back of my my wall. I love to support families. I love to support parents and children. And I am stoked to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful our paths aligned. I hope this is very helpful for everyone who is tuning in or chiming in later.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so happy to hear you. So maybe, you gave us a little background of your professional experience. But, I'm always curious as to how people found themselves in this field.
Oh, I love. Yes,
How did
I
you
love
get
that.
into like play therapy and child and adolescent mental health?
I was
Yes.
wondering the same thing. That is my
Oh, I
question.
love this. Story time. Grab your drinks. Whatever afternoon beverage.
It's so hot outside.
Yes, I have some water as well. So cheers. Yeah. So I actually, fun fact, wanted to be a famous singer. Thank goodness that didn't happen. But I will say that matters because that was a connector for a lot of things. So I wanted to sing, and then I wanted to open up a youth group for kids and teens once I became rich and famous and could just have a hangout spot. That was my idea. So I actually was going to go to school for vocal performance. I went to school undecided. And in some of the introductory classes, I usually like your first or second year of undergrad, at least in my experience, you go around the room, say who you are, say what your major is. The person sitting in front of me said that they were majoring in psychology and minoring in family studies. And I thought, you know what? That actually sounds very aligned with what I want to do. I love working with kids and teens. I used to coach when I was in high school. I used to volunteer. I knew I wanted to work with kids and teens, and I wanted to have this youth group, right? So that's what I did. I entered into the psychology field that way, really. And actually, even before then, I always forget to add this. Back in middle school, was offered to be a peer mediator, which is kind of like a therapist for your peers. Yeah. I was trained to be a mediator, like sit with the school counselor. I don't think I ever actually did it, but I was trained for it and was like available for it. I just don't think it ever happened. So like it's been in me to work with kids, even when I was a kid, and to be a therapist. So anyways, fast forward back to undergrad, I ended up taking a child life class. Child life are professionals that go into hospitals. There's also other settings they go into now, but primarily into hospitals, and they help children prepare for procedures. Oftentimes, kids are very scared, stressed out, right? There's a lot of things going on outside of their control. So child life specialists go in, and they usually maybe have like a teddy bear or a doll and play medical equipment, and then the child will play with the medical equipment on the doll or bear or whatever it may be, so they can feel more of a sense of control over the procedures and just more knowledge, and it decreases anxiety. So I was really interested in child life. I was going to venture into that. I took an art therapy class in undergrad. I really liked that. I had been interested in music therapy also because I was interested in the vocal performance. So I'm just a very creative, expressive person. So it kind of just circled around and eventually landed in the psychology realm, and just continued on through grad school and became a licensed psychologist through my field placements. For those who might not be aware, when we go through school as a therapist, we have to work in the field under supervision as an intern. And so my field experience was a place that provided play therapy. That was really my first introduction to play therapy and trauma work. And I fell in love. And so I just made that my life's work, and here we are. So that is in a nutshell with some details of what landed me where we are today.
Isn't it funny how one path can take you to the next path that takes you to the next path, right?
Yeah,
That's
truly.
incredible.
And it's alignment, right? I'm all about alignment and
Mhm.
genuineness and authenticity. And so it's interesting that I kind of ventured into over here and then over here, but ultimately it all aligned. And now I have a practice that integrates all. I have art therapists. I had a child life specialist that worked at the practice for a period of time, play therapists. We have someone who's about to join who has experience in music therapy. So I'm just bringing everyone into the team.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think one of the things that drew me to you is, I mean, all of that, let's just say. And I think there's some commonalities with all three of us as colleagues and healers and change makers. I myself was pre-med, and I took a family studies course in undergrad, and I ran with it.
Wow.
So as you took psychology and you added child studies or family studies, I was pre-med, took family studies and made it my major, ended up getting a bachelor's in family studies, a master's and a PhD in couple and family therapy.
Wow.
I love that.
It's so awesome to meet people that have kind of like walked your journey of finding themselves and finding their purpose, but also authentically honoring ourselves and what we want to do.
Right.
Right. So with that, let's start. We're almost 15 minutes in, and we can talk about this all day, every day. But let's talk about socialization and attachment. Okay. The two, well, I don't want to say the two, but two powerful words that we are obviously seeing, right? In children, we need to recognize them. We need to understand them. Doesn't matter if you're an educator, right? Doesn't matter if you're a healer, a healthcare professional, or a parent, or an aunt, uncle, anybody, right? We need to understand attachment and socialization. It's a big part of us being human. Mm-hmm. And we understand now, and I think a lot more people have this knowledge now versus before. Our attachment and our socialization carries on into adulthood and till the end of time, till you transition out. Yet it's so significant in certain aspects and certain times of our lives, right? So I'm hoping we can shed a highlight on that. So starting with the big question, right? How do we define attachment and socialization? The two words are so intertwined together, yet they're still very different, right? So if you were to describe it in like a short sentence or even a word that comes to you, let's start with attachment, okay? I believe, I don't know where you ladies are, but I think if I were to differ or put a hierarchy, I think attachment comes first and then socialization, even though they're very integrated.
Yes.
So let's talk about attachment first. And why does it come first versus socialization? What is attachment?
It is really funny. Again, we're picking a topic that's huge. And we're going to try and get this done in an hour. I mean, I'm telling you, it just can. Every time we start talking about things, all these different legs start coming off of it, right? And that is exactly the way when we were talking last night via messaging, that was exactly where I went right with attachment, because I feel like that kind of is at the top of that, right? That we have to think about and look at as parents. I'm going to go from the parent lens a little bit tonight, but that attachment can be, and I think about it as positive or negative attachments.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think attachment comes first. I think back to, I mean, really in utero. So I'll just say, because this will probably come up, I think it's helpful to add personal antidotes throughout as well. Yes, I'm a professional. Yes, I'm an expert in child mental health, and I'm a mama. A mama
Yep.
to a newly 2-year-old babe, and he's just such a joy and seems just so happy and excited about life. And when I was pregnant with him, I was very intentional about trying to connect with him and connect with my body. And so I think that attachment starts there.
Sure.
Right? I mean, quite literally, we're attached, right? If we want to just be literal, it really does start with being
Correct.
attached, right? And the bond, the connection. So I was thinking that the word for like a one word, what is attachment? It's connection.
Right.
The method in which we're connected with ourselves and others.
Mm-hmm.
And how we feel about ourselves is, of course, going to be translated to those that we connect with. And that just continues to ripple outward. But yeah, I could go on and on. I'll pause there, but I'm happy to expound upon anything at any point in time.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was also gonna say for me, attachment comes first, because it starts the minute you conceive, right? I mean, even reproductively, the sperm attaches to the egg. That determines the sex of the baby, right? The X and the Y chromosomes, right? So, like you said, literally, you're attaching to something that ends up becoming, growing to a beautiful human that enters this social world.
Exactly.
So you have 9 months of attachment already happening until socialization kicks in, per se. Yet that doesn't mean the utero isn't being impacted by the social world. It's not being impacted by the messages the mom is getting, and how the mom is taking care of her body, her emotions, etc. Right? Like, again, we don't want to make this a biological or biology lesson, but I mean, yeah, it's very, very important, right? So connection, absolutely. And I think what I would add to that, from like a clinical perspective as professionals, when we're talking about attachment, because there's a big theory out there, right? Bowlby studied attachment theory. So when you look at attachment and you look at a child's experiences as they get older, which we'll kind of tease out shortly, we are looking at attachment styles. How do we connect with the world and the relationships we have, whether it's with peers, our siblings, our parents, our family members, our colleagues, right? Our romantic partners? Everything is intertwined and starts with attachment. And then the social world impacts how we are attached. And that's where trauma comes in. That's where nurturing comes in. Again, I can talk all day. However, Dr. Tanya, I thought it would be so important to highlight your book today, because you talk about these developmental stages, right?
I do.
And attachment and socialization look similar, yet they're very different. And the needs are different, right? So let's start off with the first stage. You have 3 different stages. Talk a little bit about the early years from your book, and then Dr. Rachel and I and all 3 of us will kind of put in what attachment looks like and socialization looks like in those stages.
So I'm holding this up just so you can see. It's not super huge. So in each section, it's a couple hundred pages. In each chapter, I talk about the early years, which is birth to about 5 years old, the elementary years, which is 5 years to 12 years old, the teen years, 13 to 18. And then again, we can always add in that 18 to 25-year-old. And I do talk a lot about attachment and socialization in here. I talk a lot about communication, because I think that piece goes in there as well. So I like to talk about, when I talk about, just like you were saying, Rachel, I talk about attachment as connecting. connecting with your children. And I talk about healthy ways to connect with your kids. But again, like I said, there are healthy and unhealthy ways that you can connect. There are positive and negative ways that you can connect with your kids. And so I definitely feel like that is important. It's in there. We talk about it kind of sprinkled throughout each chapter. So yeah, so that birth to 5 years of attachment with kids. I mean, it is as simple as Rachel was saying at the very beginning, connecting with your child in utero, starting that, whenever a person may lose a child, a miscarriage or another mishap, I was talking to a friend whose daughter had this experience, and she said, the men sometimes don't feel as if they don't understand the attachment. We are attached to that child the moment that we know that we are pregnant. We feel that child. We know they are in us, right? And so that attachment, especially for females, happens so immediate, I feel like, because they are physically inside of us. And then we talk about that in the book. I talk about that attachment piece of, really bonding with your child, holding them, connecting with them through touch, through singing, through, play, through talking to them. I talk in my book at the very beginning about talking to your children from the very beginning, or even as you said, when they're in utero with you, talking to them, they're hearing your voice. Your voice is soothing to your child. Your voice soothes your child, and will for many, many years to come, And so just those pieces already begin that young attachment. What do you want to say? What do you want to add, Rachel, to that birth to 5 years, starting out with your child attachment?
Yeah, I actually want to talk to the parents, right? To be gentle with yourselves, right? We all are working through our own stuff, our own childhoods, our own attachment, our own life, right? And so I also want to be mindful when we're talking about attachment, connection, ideal experiences to have with kids. I don't want anyone to listen and say, oh, no, I am doing an insufficient job, or, oh, I'm concerned because I've had trauma. There are a variety of different concerns that people might be thinking.
Yeah.
Be gentle with yourself. Be kind with yourself. I think that's so important as you're digesting all of the messages that we're talking about here, because how you feel about yourself and how you navigate your life is inevitably going to impact the way that you continue to connect with yourself and others. It's the modeling, right? Like that's another piece I want to highlight is kids learn through modeled behavior. Humans, we all learn through modeled behavior. We all compare to one another because that is human nature. So in attachment, in that 0 to 5 range, kids are absorbing so much from the environment.
Yeah.
Right? And we have all of these thoughts and feelings going through our head. I'm doing this wrong. I need to do this. I have this laundry list. Oh, I, made this mistake here. I have this rupture in this relationship here. Just all these things that can make us really question ourselves as parents. So I know this may be straying slightly from what we're talking about, but it's connected for sure. Mm-hmm. Be kind to yourself. Recognize that if you end up having a rupture in your relationship, if you make a mistake, it's okay. It's not going to destroy attachment. It's not going to completely, ruin your connection with your child. It's all about the repair. It's the repair within yourself, and it's the repair with your child. So that is a little extra information I wanted to share that just was sitting on my heart as you were talking, and wanted you all to hear that.
I love that. I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that that's a really great point. Definitely, we are building a village, right? A parenting village. And that is our goal, that we are here building that so parents can feel comfortable. And I'm glad that you brought that out, because I think a lot of times probably parents do think, right? Did I make a mistake? Did I, traumatize this relationship? How do I fix it? Can it be fixed? Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that you brought all of that up. Absolutely. So yeah, and I talk about a lot that you are your child's first teacher. Our children are watching everything that we are doing, and they are constantly paying attention to how we react, respond, and how we connect with other people as well. What are our attachments to other people, and what is our socialization as well? Now, I would not say that birth to 5 years is my wheelhouse. I do not feel that I am the expert in birth to 5 years. I had my own children. I loved it. And I feel like when you have the second child, you give yourself a little more grace of relishing in those moments together with your child, because you know that it's a window of time, that maybe you're not going to sleep. It's a window of time that the dishes won't get done. It's a window of time that the laundry's piling up. But rocking my child to sleep is actually better, because that window of time is going to be gone. Because they don't let you rock them to sleep at 7 years old and you don't want to then. You don't want to. The phase is over. So, Dr. Qureshi, what do you want to add about the early years, birth to 5 years old? Anything on attachment?
Yes. So, guys, I don't know if you saw this on your end, but I lost connection in between. I don't know if I was frozen, but I missed the majority of the earlier parts of. Yep. So I am on my tablet now, so we should be good to go. So I can't really speak to what has been shared other than what I've heard, but what I will say is your early years, like every time period is very significant, and it's significant in different ways, right? Yet I think the early years is where you define, but also like kind of mold or transition into your parenting successfully, right? So if I were to talk about it from an adult parenting end, like your early years is what sets the stage up for how much less difficult your parenting journey will be. And what I mean by that is, because it's such a transitional phase for parents, like your self-care has to be prioritized, which we don't.
Yeah.
Your management of stress needs to be prioritized, because it's going to dictate how the other years are going to look, which is why Dr. Tanya, you and I have talked about pre-parenting classes.
Yes.
Like, why don't
come
we do
to the book club
classes?
Yes. If you're thinking of being a parent, come to the book club on Thursday for sure. Yes, absolutely. And you know what? And you can prepare. It's like anything. You get a new job, you start your new business, Dr. Altvader, you start yours, Dr. Qureshi. You think you got it all together, and then boom, this happens, boom, that happens, boom, this, I didn't realize this, I didn't know that. And that's what happens in parenting, right? You think that you've got everything prepared and even ready, but things are going to change. That little human comes into your world, and oh man, does it turn it upside down in a great way, but it turns it upside down. And it just makes things a little different. And so, yeah, practicing that self-care is huge. It really is. Or asking for help.
Yeah.
That is a big conversation.
Yes.
Asking for help, right? Yeah. And so when we talk about that attachment and socialization, I think a lot of times, we forget to take care of ourselves, or we don't rely on the others that we're attached to, the other adults that we are attached to. We forget to lean on them a little bit. So making sure that we are checking all of that also.
Yeah. So, Dr. Altvader, how old are the kids that you work with, like your youngest age group?
The youngest of the practice is 2. Typically, in my experience, if it's a 2-year-old client, it's usually child parent work. The youngest that I don't know if I've actually seen a 2-year-old myself, though. The youngest I've worked with is a 3-year-old. But we actually see across the lifespan. But I know since we're talking about kiddos, I will say that we have connected with different child-based not practices, businesses in the area. So we connected with the local toy store and the local children's bookstore. And some of the team members have actually provided community groups. They're just free, open community groups to support the community. And there was, I think, a toddler group, like 0 to 1, 0 to 2. So, I mean, we've helped all ages. So that was, I guess, a long-winded response to say all ages. But for me, I'll say the youngest I've worked with is 3.
Yeah, I think the youngest that I've worked with is probably around 3.5 as well. And it was I'm not never gonna forget this family. It was two twins, a boy and a girl, and the reason why they were in therapy is because they saw their dad get shot in front of them while they were in the van in the car seat.
Mm.
Okay. So, Dr. Tanya, you had asked a question and I'm reflecting on it. And again, I don't know if you guys talked about this. The word that comes to my mind in those early years is temperament.
Mm. We did not talk about that. No.
Temperament. I mean, it's very important throughout all of our life stages, especially the early years. Think about temperament. Think about how you manage your own anxiety and your own emotions. The minute you are conceived, right, you are having a kid, baby, that moment starts impacting your emotions, start impacting your fetus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as I'm working with children and families as well, I think for the younger, early years, temperament is so important. How are you showing up in terms of your emotions, your body language, your anxiety, right? Because kids are literally, even without words, their body's picking up on you.
Mm-hmm.
There is a process of projection. That's where attachment starts, right? When we talk about, hey, I have an anxious attachment style. Well, that's because my mom and dad were very, very anxious. They were worried about everything. Again, I don't want to go off topic, but temperament.
But I think that's perfect for the fact that, when we do look at that and we're looking at that, we do need some specific examples of what's healthy attachment and what is unhealthy attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at that birth to 5-year-old, like I was just saying, okay, rocking your 18-month-old baby to sleep at night is different. That's a healthy attachment. When we're rocking a 10-year-old to sleep at night, we probably are seeing an unhealthy attachment at this point in time, whether it's on the child side or the parent side. And so, how do you handle, and this is a question for both of you, if you have a parent who comes in and says, well, I still rock my 10-year-old to sleep at night and I give her her sippy cup and we sit there. How do you handle a situation like that with a parent and the child?
Well, it depends on the parent in itself, right? Like I think the first piece for me is assessment of where the parent is regarding their attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and the reason why I want to highlight the parent, what is your attachment style? What are your support systems in place? What is your own identity other than being a mom or a dad?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is that? What has not allowed you to let your child blossom into an appropriate age where they're sleeping in their bed?
Right.
What has prevented you from allowing them to grow up?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, I have kids right now where 10-year-olds are sleeping in parents' bed in the middle, or they're sleeping on the floor because they're too scared or something. It's to me, it's about going back to the parent and how they have enabled, I don't even want to say enabled, but like how they have attached to their child. So I'm not directly, and Dr. Rachel, you can correct me if I'm wrong or give me other ways. I don't directly go into talking about change the behavior for the child. Just take the sippy cup away. Or, you know what? Put a lock on their door. Don't let them come out of their room. Let them sleep, right? No, I go to the parent, which is why one of the first things I say to parents is, I'm not a babysitting service. Do not drop your kid off here. You need to stay here. You need to be involved if you want me to work with you. That's how I roll. Dr. Rachel, what would you like to add to that?
I also start with the parent, right? Absolutely. And it's super important to recognize cultural differences. Because something that I recognize is I operate from my perspective in the way that my attachment, what's normal for me, right? Like that's inevitably how we as humans, we default to that. So as a professional, I don't want to default to my own cultural worldview, mindset, the way I've been raised, this is the right way to do it. It's not. So I check myself actually first and foremost. Then,
but a 10-year-old sippy cup, I don't think that's allowed in any culture.
well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
You're talking about cultural because I have a lot to say, but a 10-year-old with a sippy cup.
I will say I do. I agree. And I'm ignorant and I own my ignorance, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe there are some cultures where that is more normal. I don't know.
No.
Well, but that's where I start. Start there first.
Though.
Then I definitely do lean in like you do, like what's going on with the parent, right? Is this really a parent need or is this a child need or is it a collaborative need? Is this being modeled to the child of you actually like this is what needs to continue to happen before bedtime? Is the child, there's something called regression. So when somebody is struggling, any of us could be experiencing this when we're struggling, sometimes we like go back psychologically to like earlier stages. So sometimes a child may wet the bed a bit more or may want to suck their thumb or like kind of go back to earlier stages that they've already passed because there's something psychologically occurring. So that's another thought. If there is a child who is regressing, what is that about? Right. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't want to remove it right away either, because there is some level of regulation that's occurring, right? Some connection, some need that is being met here. So I lean in from a place of curiosity, what's going on? And then once there's more insight gained, right? It's assessment for me as well. I then will work on finding ways to address the underlying concern. A lot of times kids will present with symptoms. And if we just put Band-Aids on the symptoms, we're not actually addressing the root cause. So I do like to lean in, figure out more of what's going on, build the relationship with the family, have the parent hopefully get to a place of being able to, engage in some introspection, recognize some of how they're feeling and how that might be contributing to what's occurring. And then let's figure out how we can address the underlying cause, not just put a Band-Aid on the sippy cup rocking your 10-year-old to bed. Mm-hmm. And then usually we address the underlying cause, which sometimes takes some time. That can be a disappointing thing with therapy. I want results now. Sometimes it takes a bit, right? We didn't get to where we are overnight. We're not going to get to where we want to go overnight. But then, addressing those underlying concerns, we don't put the Band-Aids on. I don't even have to address necessarily the sippy cup situation. It's let's talk about the anxiety. How can we tame the anxiety? How can we nurture that? Support you there. And then the symptoms go away. There's a lot of times that I provide therapy services and, families are like, oh, we're getting better. Like things are getting better. And I'm like, I didn't even address that yet, but it's because it's the underlying.
There's those legs that are coming out, right? Yeah. Of this topic that I was talking about, right? We've got some regression that could potentially be underlying problems that could be happening because of attachment. Like there's so many scenarios and situations with unhealthy attachment, and finding ways to make healthy attachments, I think, is a great way to, bond with other parents and learn from them. Like you were saying, culturally, right? I mean, I've been a principal and administrator for a long time. I've been in education. I've worked with families for over 30 years, all age ranges. I've been a principal at elementary, middle, and high school. And that, I've learned a lot from families, but then when we start talking about these cultural pieces, there's another leg, right? And you're right, Dr. Altvader, there is another mindset of thinking of the way families are raised in different cultures. So, yeah. But Dr. Qureshi says no sippy cup.
Not at 10. Not at 10. I'm sorry. Not at 10. Okay. I'm so God, this conversation can go on and on.
I love it.
Like just the stage. We're just on the first early year.
I know.
We only have like 20 minutes left. So I'm gonna be the timekeeper. So here's what I'm gonna do. I have a feeling, Dr. Altvader, you're gonna be coming back for another session to finish this off with us. Okay. And kind of tying this together, right? So we're talking about the early years, 0 to 5. So my takeaway so far from what we've talked about and what I've heard is, if we were to look at some of the differences or things to be like really zoom in on, is we're talking about connection, starting from scratch, right? And being mindful of your own self-care and how important it is. Okay, so put your resources in place. Then we're talking about temperament. It's very crucial the first 5 years, right? And then the other thing that I think I want to highlight is the developmental stages in terms of milestones, right? So when I do an assessment and I'm looking at, so I'm asking questions about like, how was the pregnancy? What did the, how old, not how old, how many weeks was the child when you gave birth? Did they spend any time in NICU? What was their weight, etc.? And then we also go into asking about milestones. Did they walk on time? Did they talk on time? Did they get potty trained on time? Right? Like those things usually happen between the first 5 years of their life. And it's so important to be mindful of that and keep your eye out for those things, because any delays in those things, you need to involve somebody to assess so that you can prevent delays. That would be my feedback when you're dealing with attachment and socialization the first 5 years in terms of what we talked about.
I would agree, and I think that's a great synopsis of it. And I'm gonna just add another ribbon on this little package that we've put together here. But I also think in a lot of communities, there is parents as teachers, school districts provide this for free. This is a free assessment for you to have on your child to check developmentally from birth to 5 years old. They will also come in, parents as teachers will also come in and do a prenatal assessment on you and a pregnancy assessment to just kind of give you advice and tips and help you get prepared for this pregnancy. So they're a great free service. Most school districts have it for you to be able to check out. So this will be a great way for you as parents to go through and check those milestones of your children also. And they can also help identify if there's anything that they're seeing that, may need some additional supports or help before their child goes into school. So that's really, really nice.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. You are speaking like a true educator. And I want to highlight that just because these services are available does not mean there isn't a long wait list of 2 years. I'm sorry. I want you to be my child when I have one. I want you as the educator and principal for my child.
Okay.
All right, ladies, let's move on to the second year. Dr. Tanya, so you have the second element.
We are getting into my wheelhouse now. We are getting into this favorite age group of mine, 5 to 12-year-old children, right? And so in the book, each chapter starts with the early years. We touch on elementary, we go to the next ones. And so the book is on Amazon, but going into those elementary years, this is when we start teaching our kids how to become, they're starting to learn what they like. They're going to school, they're selecting what they want for lunch. We're seeing them, what they want to wear, what their backpack is going to look like, their school supplies, leaving mom, keeping track of a schedule at home to get ready. Like all of these things change, right? When we start going into this age group here. They're starting clubs. They're determining what are some activities that they like. They might be starting extracurricular activities. And then again, those other little milestones, tying their shoes, being able to pack their own lunch, having that independence, having some social time with friends outside of the home, right? Birth to 5 years old, our socialization is small. It's in a small group. It may be a daycare, a childcare home, 5 or so kids. Now we're in a school with 700 kids, right? So our socialization opportunities then expand and grow at that point in time. And so that's kind of that piece in a nutshell with that. Now, when you start seeing those, negative attachments, or you're seeing things, and I know Dr. Altvader is going to go in with this great assessment and say, there's a reason this kid doesn't want to go to school. There's a reason they don't want to let go of mom when they're at the door. There's a reason they refuse to get out of the car. There's a reason they're trying to leave school, right?
Yep.
And so when we look at those, I would call them either, negative attachments or unhealthy attachments. There's something happening at home or with the student or child that is causing them to have those attachments, and or with the parent. We talked a little bit when Dr. Qureshi and I were messaging back and forth, that hover parent. Where is that parent? Is that parent coming up every day for lunch to get their eyes over everything that's happening, hovering outside of the school until the bell rings? Like, what is happening here? Where's this attachment piece happening?
Yeah.
How do we help these parents?
I think,
Well,
oh, you want to go?
no, I was going to say, Dr. Rachel, yeah, definitely go ahead with the answer, but also talk about what you're seeing in that age group as well. As a child. Yeah.
I mean, I think normalization is so helpful, right? Transitions are hard for humans, right? So transitioning to new stages, transitioning to new grades, transitioning to new teachers, new friend groups, right? All of the socialization, it's tough in general, just to have something new. And I think there are often times where maybe a child has a challenging emotional experience or might be acting out a bit behaviorally, and the default is, oh no, there's something going on, there's a problem. Sometimes it's just normal child development. Sometimes a child is just struggling because they're a human being and we are emotional creatures, and it can be tough sometimes, right? So normalizing challenge, I think, is a great place to start. When it becomes, I think, disruptive, right? Disruptive to the child, disruptive within the social situations, it becomes more problematic, right? More severe. Then I think it's venturing into understanding more about the why behind things. I have one quick little nugget that I was thinking about, and I guess it kind of answers the, what are you seeing? I'm hearing a lot more now, especially as a supervisor, that other clinicians are hearing from parents, oh, well, they just want attention. And I kind of I feel like a little cringe internally when I hear that, because, okay, let's say that's true. Let's say the child just wants attention. How come? Right. So we're back to the why.
Agreed. I totally agree. 100%.
Yeah, like something's going on here, right? And whether, again, that's internally, whether that's socially, like whatever it may be, it's different for each person. We don't have time to go to every possible, avenue, but what's really going on here, and having a space for the child to be heard and for the parent to be heard individually and collectively is extremely important.
Right. Yeah. And this would be my go-to statement to that, because I personally experienced that as a parent with one of my children. She would start acting up, whether it be being silly or trying to just continually call my name or something. And, ask the child, do you need attention and what do you need from me? They probably will tell you. And if they are needing that attention, are you able to give it to them at that time, or can you schedule that time? And I hate to say that, but there are times that you can say, I'm sorry, I have to finish this job right now, but how about at 7:00 tonight? We'll do this as a together for, right, our attachment, because they're needing something more. And it's okay to have that. I think that's important. I think I want to make sure that people understand too, that a healthy attachment is really good. It's really good. It's good for you as a parent and great for your kids. You're teaching them how to become, kind, caring, and compassionate adults. You're teaching them how to have a relationship, how to show love and affection. Like, that's really huge, to also be able to teach them what a healthy attachment looks like. So yeah, they probably are asking for attention. You're right.
Please love me. Please connect with me.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It makes a lot of sense. We all want that. We all, as humans, want to be seen, heard, understood, and cared about or cared for.
100%. Yes.
So I'm so again, this just gets better and better. So
She's taking notes over there.
I am. I'm taking notes, and you know what I'm taking notes on, Dr. Tanya?
The next episode.
No, actually, I'm taking notes on your second addition to your book.
I love you.
Which is going to entail a few changes, but additions such as cultural diversity and expanding the stages that you have, I got you. That's
I
what
love
I'm
you so
doing.
much. She's amazing. There she
we're
is.
gonna
She's just
we're
pushing
gonna
me.
we're also gonna translate it in Urdu and Hindi so I can go do the work out in my country part of the world.
I know. I
I
know.
love
I know.
that.
I know. It's
So
gonna
what
be
I
awesome.
was going to add to that very significant, robust conversation about attention, right? So this was a posting that I saw years ago, and it made so much sense to me, and then it just literally condensed everything you guys are saying about attention seeking, right? It said shift from looking at it from attention seeking to connection seeking.
Oh, I love
Yes.
that.
I saw that too. Yes.
It's
Yes.
that simple.
Yes.
Perspective shift. Yes. It's
That
yes.
that reframe in itself does so much justice. The minute you think, and this would be to me an intervention, right? Like if a parent comes in, or even a educator, teacher, right, who's like, man, this kid just disrupts the classroom. Well, they're just attention seeking. No, they're looking for connection.
Connection is regulation.
Yeah.
It is. When your child is struggling, doesn't matter the stage, right? When your child is struggling, when you meet them with a compassionate, loving stance, and let's just say, I know that's hard. Okay. I know I'm speaking to all you parents. I know. I see you. I know. I get it deeply. We all do. Really provide the space for them to be nurtured, to calm it down, to feel connected. It regulates them. Super quick. Sorry, I know I kind of chimed in. I can feel quite activated at times, right? And I then will model diaphragmatic breathing. I will just, and I just will start to breathe just like that. I'll close my eyes, and then I normalize the feeling. You're having really big feelings right now. It makes complete sense. I say sometimes it is really hard to be you. I completely understand that you're very angry because you really want to do what you want to do. And sometimes it's really hard to not be able to do the things that we want to do. And I'm like trying, because it is hard for us as parents to regulate, right? So if I regulate myself, I then model that to my son. There was one day randomly, he's standing over here in the corner. And I'm like, yes. Now, that's not to say that Mr. Independent is like every time. No, he's like, I want to do all the things I want to do. But connection is regulation. I connect to him. I connect to the feeling. I connect to myself. I try to calm down. Easier said than done, easier said than felt. But I really just wanted to chime in about that because it's such an important skill to implement for ourselves. And
I love that. And there's another branch. But when you're talking about teaching your child how to self-regulate, right? They're learning from you. You're modeling it for them. You have to practice it also in your life. You're modeling it for them. And then, you're hoping that this transitions to them. And it's important to do. It's super important to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I've ever seen a parent or child in therapy where we're not talking about co-regulation, right? Co-regulation is so important, and kind of like bringing it back to our elementary years, right? Ladies, we got 7 minutes, okay? So
it's okay. It'll be a to be continued. You just have to tune in next time.
Yes, but I still want structure, right? Structure and outline. I did a fancy outline that I'm trying to follow. Okay. So I'm trying to implement what we should be implementing with our kids. Okay. As adults. So kind of just looping back around with what both of you said and adding to it is, I think in these elementary years, what I would do is, I think it's important to also divide them up in between the groups, because what you see from 6 to probably 8 or 9 versus from 9 to like 12, it's different. Okay.
Sure.
Very different.
Yeah.
So in the early stage of the elementary years, right, one thing that comes up for me is personality. You're gonna see your child's personality developing and coming out.
Yeah.
They're gonna start showing up in a way you're gonna be like, yo, you're sassy. Where'd you get that mouth from? Ta-da, mommy. Right? Or wait, did you just say no to me? Get back over there. Right? So you're gonna see personality that's going to be more obvious. You're also going to see them push back a little bit more, right? You're going to see them asking for things, right? Like you said, Dr. Tanya, this is where they start choosing their lunches, making their lunches. If they don't want to match their sibling, they're going to be like, no, I want to wear something else, right? This is where they start giving you a pushback, which is healthy.
Yes,
right?
It is.
And then in the second part of the early years, this is where their peers start becoming more important. So you go from like, the early years to elementary years, you're going to see a shift from wanting to connect with you and be with you all the time to, okay, I'm starting to develop my personality. I like this. I don't like this. I can say no, to mom and dad, go away. I need more peer time. I don't want to spend time with you.
Yes.
And you're going to start seeing that in the 10, 11, 12, like teenage year, early years, right? So I think it's really important to allow that process to happen and allow them to grow. That's what I would say.
I would agree.
What do you ladies want to add to that, me being condensing it?
No,
I think it's time. So I'll just say yes, what you said.
And this is where the core regulation is. This is the period where your child is going to say, you do this, mom and dad, so why are you telling me not to do it? They're going to be like, I see you talking back and yelling and screaming at each other, but you don't want me to yell and scream at my sibling? This is where they're going to stand up and call you out on stuff.
And this is where the parent has to do the work to change their behavior. And parents can do the work and change their behavior as well. And so that's important to know. And I think, what I would say wrapping this all up would be, we have to find balance in there, right? We're not going to be this perfect parent. No one is perfect. You're going to have some things that you do that maybe you probably shouldn't do. You're going to have some things that you do that are really amazing, and you just have to find that balance of how can you do that? What is the best thing for you and your child or your family to do, when you're correcting a child or changing a behavior that's unhealthy, it's going to take time, just like you had said before. This is not an overnight fix. And so I just want to go back to the parent to parent book club. We talk through a lot of things at the book club, as well as in the back of my book, there are discussion questions we'll go through, and you can make some plans for yourself as a parent. And that's what I love the most, is being able to go through, and they're not things you have to share with everybody in the group, but you can sit there and you can say, I'm going to change this. Maybe this is an unhealthy attachment, or I know this is an unhealthy attachment and I want to make it healthier. So what can I do? And create a plan and the steps of how you're going to make a change to that child's behavior. Changes to behavior or to your behavior. Those changes take time and they're not easy to do, and you may get pushback. But, really going through, and the goal for this is for you to reflect as a parent, to sit there and think about, how can I have healthy socialization for my kids, or what areas of socialization probably aren't going really well for my child either. And so really reflecting and thinking about some of the things that you can do to help improve this for your child. Your goal, I always say, your goal as a parent is you want to love those children and you want to grow them so they become very productive adults. You want them to want to move out of your home, not because they dislike you, but because they are prepared and ready for adulthood. So we have to start pushing them out of the nest a little at a time and giving them some independence.
Yeah. See, that right there is culturally dependent on where you come from and what that looks like.
That is true.
Right?
Yeah.
Because in my culture, 18, please. You ain't moving out till you married. Don't you even bring it up if you're
I feel like that happens a lot in the United States now, but and a lot of the same cultures.
I
But
mean, there's
yeah.
so much going on, political factors where kids are moving back in their 30s too. Like,
Sure.
again, so
Exactly.
many different
Right.
layers.
But, the goal is to get your kids to grow, become.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Dr. Altvader, what are your thoughts? What are you feeling? You got to come back. We can put you on the schedule for July as well, which will make our jobs easier because we already know what we're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
What would you like to add? I'm going to give you the last word in terms of, anything that you feel like you missed that you want our audience to know.
On
honestly, attachment and socialization.
I feel like that was a really beautiful mic drop ending. I just want to say, so I don't know. I'll continue the message of be kind to your mind, right? Like I
love that.
Life is hard. Parenting is hard. Navigating life's complexities are hard. Just be kind to yourself and, model that to your children.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome.
It was great to meet you tonight, Rachel.
Yeah.
So lovely to meet you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone who's listening, who joined, who will be playing back our discussion. I'm excited.
Yes, and we will be back here on the last Tuesday in July at 7 p.m. EST with Dr. Altvader. I'm hoping you are available so that we can finish this amazing conversation around attachment and socialization. And with that, next week or the week after that, I'll be back with Deanna Pelly for I Choose Us. And a few other things, guys. I have another thing that I'm
in the works, huh?
that I'm working on. And I'm going to go back for the podcast with Brother Preacher Moses for mental health to continue that on July 16th.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, lovely meeting you guys, seeing you. Rachel, thank you so much for finally, joining us. And I look forward to meeting you in person again. And we'll rock next month as well.
Sounds wonderful.
All right.
Until
take
next
care.
time.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.